Namaskar. Yog and KarmYog. These, when we are looking at KarmYog for 21st century, which is what is the base for this Fit for Life program that we are all part of today, the path of KarmYog for 21st century, the sadhana paddhati or the deep committed practice, the processes around that, it really involves this term karma yoga. So it's very important to understand these two terms. The one term karma yoga, and in order to understand karma yoga, we have to understand what is karma and what is yoga. Now let's start with yoga. Yoga, as many of you might know, is actually means union. In many of the Indian languages which draw its origins from Sanskrit, the word yoga is very common, and it's used in maths when people are learning mathematics, right? As a small child, one of the first things they learn is yoga. Mind you, you might think that yoga is all this exercise and yoga, asana, and all that. But the first thing people learn about yoga is in the context of mathematics. In maths class, we would be taught yoga, vyoga. Yoga is addition, and vyoga is subtraction. That's the simple thing. So all of us have actually understood yoga in terms of addition, and that's the first connect with the word yoga that we have here in India. In fact, this whole thing about the connection with the exercising rhythm, that aspect of life, and that connection with yoga is actually, people here also now call it yoga. Yoga. So here people actually differentiate today. This was not always so. Today, differentiate between yoga and yoga. Yoga is the mathematical addition, and yoga is this exercise routine and all, which has become very popular in the West today as yoga. But let me just explain why this has happened, a little bit of the semantic history. Well, in Sanskrit, the word yoga is actually means yoga, what we say. This word, Sanskrit origin is always called yoga. The pronunciation was yoga. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. So, skillful, expressing yourself more skillfully, your work more skillfully is yoga. That's the definition of yoga provided in the Bhagavad Gita. So, yoga karmasu kaushalam. Similarly, so the word you can see is yoga. That is how the word was, the activity was defined. All the yogic routines, the asanas, and that was the most visible part of yoga. Although yoga, the entire path of yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, as Patanjali Rishi had actually documented it, included both the active as well as the passive elements. The active elements was more stuff that you could ostensibly see easily, which included do's and don'ts, and then the postures, and then the breath work, which meant yam, niyam, asana, pranayam. And then from there it went to the withdrawal of senses, which was pratyahar, and then dharana, which was holding on to something, starting your meditative process by holding on to an object, objective meditation, and then that's dharana, and then dhyan, when this you didn't need to your process of meditating became kind of effortless, that was dhyana, and then samadhi, when the subject and the object became one, completely integrated. So that was the Ashtanga Yoga. But within that, the most ostensible, what was easy to meet, what met the eye, were the asanas or the postures, and that was typically called yoga. But that yoga, a at the end, the pronunciation of yoga, there is no English correlate to So it could have been one UHYOG, but that is not how it was written. It was just written simply as YOGA. The was summarized within the letter A. So the spelling became yoga, YOGA. So what happens is now, even in India, where a lot of the modern education system did not include yoga so much as part of the practices or part of the syllabus, the modern education system, people who grew up within it, kind of were not really, were connected with yoga only in the maths class. Whereas the physical education class, there was really no mental education. The maths was the mental education. The physical education class, even if you did exercise, it was called vyayam or exercises and all that. So we learnt more about yoga from yogic yoga from YOGA from the West. So and then the pronunciation became yoga, YOGA, yoga. And now it is called yoga and meditation. Even most of the popular schools that are teaching, they call it yoga and meditation classes, because in English, really most of the postures and all are included within the yoga aspects, and the meditative aspects are all included as meditation. So anyway, the point is, yoga is actually, as I was mentioning earlier, if you go to the root, and the most popular way of understanding yoga is union, addition. That is how in maths the term yoga is used. And that is the original meaning of the term. Yoga is union. Now, obviously, if it is union, the next question that begs for an answer is, what is it an union of? Yoga is union. It's union of what? Which two things, or which two or more things? Now, as we have described earlier, talked about this earlier, obviously we do talk about Tana Prana Mana Chitta, or the physical, energetic, mental and spiritual dimensions of our being, and all that unity, integration is yoga. Loosely speaking, we can differentiate between the physical and energetic as the more gross, and the mental and spiritual as the more subtler aspect. So most cases yoga is also seen, the yogic practices are seen as the integration or union of mind and body. Very simply speaking, when we oversimplify it, it just is referred to as a union of mind and body. As if when you go to the gym and practice other kind of exercises, that is not a union of mind and body. Now, I don't know where that comes from, because there's really nothing that you can do with the body without the involvement of the mind. The mind is involved or engaged in some way or the other. Well, it could be that the design of certain exercise regimens or practice routines do not take into account specific prescriptions about what you need to do with the mind, and just tell you what you got to do with the body. And that may be an issue. So you go to the gym and you're pumping weights, or you're doing something with your body, but you're not told what to do with the mind. So there's the TV running there, someone is watching the news, someone is watching a different program. That's how they engage their mind. So they're doing different things with the mind. It's not prescribed what they've got to do with the mind, whereas in most of the yogic practices, that was prescribed. What you do with the mind while you're busy doing something with the body, that was prescribed. So it kind of acknowledged the fact that the mind and body are two inseparable and two integral parts of your being, and hence it prescribed both what you needed to do with both. In that sense, it is often called a practice routine for exercising your mind and body. But really, when we at KarmYog for 21st Century, and especially as part of this Fit for Life program, when we are talking about yoga, we also widen the meaning of this word, unity or this union. We could, for example, I'm giving one example now, for example, talk about yoga just as also a unity of our individual self with our collective that we find ourselves in. Let's say I am an individual. I am also part of a collective, which is the society, the family, the country, and the locality and all that, the culture that I find myself in. So I can say that yoga is this coming together of the individual with the collective. That is also a type of yoga. And in KarmYog for 21st Century Fit for Life programs, we do include all these kind of definitions of yoga in very important ways. But that's not the topic for today. The real issue that I want to come to is a way by which we can define ourselves. Now, the question, who am I, is a very important question for any spiritual seeker, so they say. So it really has been the bedrock of questions that have been asked in historically in terms of spirituality. Adi Shankaracharya, when he was asked, who are you? by someone, he really, the answer that he gave today is really has become a stotra, or a really a big verse or a poem or a song, which is even today, hundreds of years later, sung very, very devotedly by lots of people. And it really defines almost the syllabus for a spiritual seeking, because it really talks about who I am not. When he was asked, who are you, bhai? Who are you, man? So his answer was, I am not my mind, I am not my consciousness, I am not my memory, I am not my sense organs, I am not my father, I am not my mother, I am not my friends, I am not my guru, I am not what I am eating, I am not what the food is, I am not the act of eating, I am not the pilgrimage that I make, I am not the mantra that I chant, I am not the yagnas or the other practices. So he keeps saying what he is not. He keeps saying that over, I mean, all that, and all that becomes almost like a spiritual seeker's syllabus. Because all that you're not, he lists them out. So you really have to know, if you're not that, you have to know what that is to be sure that you are not that. So it kind of becomes a list. So that's one way of, and that's again for another day, another discussion. I'm not focusing on that today, but I really want to focus on something else, which is we can think of ourselves as all the things that we are able to do. If we look at ourselves as a package of qualities, gunas, as we say in our languages, gunas or qualities or qualifications, then all the qualifications that we have really get expressed through our work, through our karma, through our activities, through our actions. I have talked about this earlier. Now, hence, we can think of ourselves as all those things that we can do. If I'm a computer programmer, I can do computer programming. That's why I am a computer programmer. If I cannot do computer programming, I am not a computer programmer. So I am this, I am not that. Similarly, if I'm bending this finger, so if I can bend it up to this point, then that is me. I cannot bend it any further. So that is not me. Now, if by practice I can bend it even more, I can bend it all the way up to this, then I am this. This is where it ends. This is my limitation. This is my boundary. I cannot take my finger here. So that's not me today. If someone can, or tomorrow I can take it here, then I have become this who can take my finger here. If someone else can take his or her finger here, that person is kind of can recognize or imagine of his or herself by someone who can take his or her finger up to this point. So this is just an example of what we can do and what we cannot do. The stuff that we can do is how we define ourselves. That is what we are capable of. So all our abilities define us. That is a kind of who am I answer from a KarmYogic point of view. From that aspect, if I say all the stuff that I can do today is me, and what I cannot is what I am not. If that is the way to look at my own self, then yoga or KarmYoga could be the union of all that I can do and all that I cannot do. So just when I recognize, acknowledge, when I reach that point or that line which defines what I can do, which is really the line beyond this side is all that I am. And beyond that point is all that I am not, because I cannot do all those things. So that line is the union line or the union point. And our sadhana, our path, our daily routine, our deep committed practice every day, day after day is focused on that, in trying to recognize that line, find out that line, introduce that line to our own selves, so that we can acknowledge, well, this is my boundary today. Beyond this boundary, I am uncomfortable. I feel pain. So I go to that boundary, I visit that boundary line, that boundary point every day, day after day, time after time, and I get acquainted with that line. I feel a little bit of discomfort, but still I accept it. I smile at that point and I come back from there. And I go there, come back from there. By that activity, by that act, I keep pushing my boundaries, and that pushing of boundary helps to develop my own self. And that really is the crux of KarmYog as we see it within KarmYog for 21st century. That's all for today, friends. I hope there's something that got unpacked today. Take it easy and take care. Namaskar.